Hello, welcome to ITU Telecom World here in Geneva in Switzerland, where I'm talking with Hans Vestberg, who is the President and CEO of Ericsson. Hans Vestberg, let's begin at the beginning. We've had 10 years of massive growth in the ICT industry, and now globally the world is more or less in recession. What do you think are the most pressing challenges facing the industry now?
First of all, I think the underlying demand for ICT is continuing. I mean, we see more and more devices coming out in the networks, and people like you and me, we're using the networks more than we've ever done before. So I think that's important. Then, of course, a global economy will impact anyone. But outside that, the main challenge I would looking forward to see right now is around continued harmonization, standardization when it comes to spectrum and so on, because that will drive scale, bringing down the cost even further so we can penetrate even more and larger masses of people on Earth. Another thing that I think is important is the partnership, the private and public, because we're now coming to a stage of the 10 years of a fantastic development, and now we need to reap the effect both in the society and for enterprises. And I think that is the next step. I think we, as users, we have already reaped a lot of effect of this ICT boom that we have seen. So I think those two are very important, the cooperation and the continuous harmonization and standardization.
What do you expect to get from your participation here at ITU Telecom World 2011, and what sort of key message would you like to give to the delegates and the people who will be watching this interview in due course?
I think the main message is, of course, that number one, that we have had a tremendous development. I mean, now we have 5.8 billion mobile subscriptions. We have 900 million mobile broadband subscriptions and some 500 fixed broadband subscriptions. That has gone in a fairly short time. If you look ahead, it's not enough now. We will see even more development. And I think that step is going to also change our industry, because we're going to start to use the networks in a totally different way. I mean, we have been using them, they're based on voice, now they're data. And that's why we're going to see a lot of innovation on top of the networks. And that's partly what I was saying to the ITU audience here, that is what we need to look for. Innovation on top of the networks, because we have such a tremendous infrastructure out there.
How do you think ICT can best drive social and economic development for the entire planet?
I think that first of all, I mean, a couple of stats. I mean, we have been studying quite a lot the impacts of broadband. For every 10% of broadband penetration, you get 1% sustainable GDP. And not only that, for every 1,000 broadband connections, you get 80 net jobs. So of course, we know that it's a big impact on our society, this. But on top of that, of course, you need to start seeing a lot of different type of applications coming out, maybe for healthcare, education, etc., that can address a lot of the needs and challenges we have on Earth. We have been working quite a long time with the MDG, the Millennium Development Goals, and the villages there to start having broadband and mobility in them, and then enabling them with education and with healthcare, and you see a fantastic and tremendous efficiency there. Now it's all about scaling that, so we can scale it to larger masses. I think that's very important.
A couple of more Ericssonian questions now, Hans, if you wouldn't mind. You have been involved as a company in the Network Society, and you're a leading proponent of technology for good. What lessons have you learned from the success of that technology for good, and can it be applied elsewhere?
I think a lot of the technology for good we have been doing all around the world, first of all, has been market-based. And I think that is extremely important, because then we know it's going to be replicated. If it's only a charity or something like that, then it's not going to work. And that's why a lot of the technology for good, if it's been in healthcare, education, those has actually been increasing efficiency, has been doing business for us or for the operators. I think that's the most important. And that's why we believe the next 20 years is going to be the network society. That's when we're going to use the networks in a totally different way, and anything that benefits from being connected will be connected. And in that word, we need to be innovative with technology, and also listening to all other stakeholders from other industries. How will they use this technology?
What do you think are the potential advantages and the risks of smartening up society?
I think when we talk about smart cities, etc., it's clear that we're going to have even further urbanization. We're going to have more people living in big cities, And of course, that's going to put a lot of pressure on those cities. And it doesn't really matter where the city is in the world, it's just an urban city, a massive city with a lot of people. I think that is going to create a lot of challenges, and where I think ICT will play a key role in order to enable that city to have an infrastructure that can actually cope with that challenge. But of course, there are a lot of similarities across the borders here on the smart city, smart solution, all of that. But also, I would say the rural areas, if you go on the other end of the diagram, also have the same challenges regardless where you are in the world. So we need to have solutions both for rural areas and remote areas, as well as for the smart cities and the urban cities.
What about the potential risks?
In general, I don't see any major issues with it. Of course, there are always going to be issues when you go with smart cities and all of that. I mean, in our case, if you look at Ericsson, we do the same technology wherever we want to deliver it, because then you reap most of the benefits and the economy of scale of it. So I guess it's just going to be used for different type of users in different type of environments.
Finally, Hans, can you name one thing that you think needs to happen to get us closer to the ITU's mission of giving more global citizens more meaningful access to connected technology?
I think the development will show that we're going to get penetration and a lot of networks out all around the world. I think the most important will be scalability of new solutions, if it's healthcare, education, and the cooperation between public and private sector. That, I think, is the main issue.
Hans Vestberg, thank you.